Hi, I'm Kathy Webster, Managing Editor at AMT, the Association for Manufacturing Technology in McLean, Virginia. Today, here with me is Hubert Sawicki from Warsaw, Poland. Tell us right now, what's going on? What are you seeing in Warsaw, where you are?
Yeah, in a way, the situation has stabilized because now it's 1 month now since the war started. Therefore, we have something like 2.3 million people coming to Poland, crossing the border to Poland, and another 1 million, maybe more, probably 1.2 million going over other borders to Slovakia, Hungary, Romania. That's bordering countries. So it's quite a huge number of people. Out of those, sorry.
No, go ahead. Well, I was wondering, like, when you go out of your place, are you running in and seeing refugees?
Yeah. It's even last Sunday we went to the old town with someone. And suddenly, they speak Ukrainian and Russian because Ukrainians speak Russian to children. Children are running, and actually that's unusual. They are not tourists were not coming with children usually. Suddenly there are plenty of them. So they're trying. Many of them were trying to settle in Poland, and they have this opportunity. Others actually went further on to the west. To other countries, but in Poland we have 1.2 million now, more or less.
Wow. And recently, or I guess it was maybe 2 weeks ago, you had an interesting story. Your son, who lives in London, had a friend whose mother was in Odessa on the Black Sea. So I think 900 miles, like that might be almost from Washington, D.C. to maybe Las Vegas. And you jumped in to help, and then you also helped other people along the way. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Because what happened? So that when it started, people started to come, and there was a bit of panic, both sides, both for them, inevitably, the war, and for us as well. I mean, so many people, and somehow everyone felt that we have to help somehow, because obviously, just crossing the border, and what next? What next? So anyone would think of finding the way to help. So for me, this opportunity with my son actually and his friend and the mother actually who wanted to come to England, to London, but there was a visa process for them. UK is not in the European Union now, so they have a separate system for that. So you have to apply for the visa either in their home country or some third country, not possible in England for that. So we decided with my wife, okay, let's bring her over to us. She would stay here for a few days, whatever it takes, and we would help her to get this visa. But it's easy to say, but then there were little things, the logistics, because she hesitated whether to go or not, to leave her work and children. She works in the kindergarten, so in fact, with young children. Then she lived in Odessa for 56 years. She was not born there, but then lived all the time, one place, one address. And suddenly, such a thing for her, so she hesitated for several days. Then she decided that things are not looking good, and she would like to come to Polish border. And indeed, those 900 kilometers. There is one train within 24 hours from Odessa to the border of Poland. She was trying to get to this train. It was not possible physically, too many people. So she had to wait for another train, which was not going to Poland, but to the city of Lvov, which is Ukraine, but it's about 90 kilometers from the Polish border. She went there. Obviously, we lost track because her telephone stopped working and no one knew what was happening to her. And after many hours, the next day or something, she finally came with an information from the city of Lvov that she was there and was trying to find another train to go to Poland, the first information. Then actually she embarked on the train, but again, we didn't know what time, etc., etc. And I hesitated what to do because finally we established a train which she possibly was to be on it, left at 5:30 p.m. And for me to go to the border, it was about 5 hours from where I live, quite a distance. So go that night, and then there is no hotel. I checked, there is no hotel. Everything is booked. Refugees, and otherwise. And I decided to go early morning, very early morning next day. And to cut the long story short, finally, that it was like a miracle with this old commotion. I didn't know her, she didn't know me. We had photographs, but we looked differently. She came on the train ultimately some 40 minutes before I arrived at the train station. So I started to look around, and she managed to charge her phone. So she talked to her daughter. Her daughter said that I'm waiting at the train station and probably desperate. And she at that time decided to went to some train and go somewhere, apparently to Krakow. But to Krakow, which wasn't the right direction, so I'd have to chase her if that was to happen. But it didn't. It didn't. We met. And in the meantime,
say how many thousands of people were at that station?
oh, well, good question, actually, because the train was very large, actually. It was a train with many, many carriages. They say it was about 2,500 people on the train. And obviously, many friends were waiting for them.
Yeah.
Because that was happening, The people, Ukrainians working in Poland or living in Poland or living somewhere in Europe, they were coming to this very place to meet their friends or their acquaintance or whoever. And so we probably had a crowd of 500, I don't know, and at the station, trying to find a way, and they paraded.
So how did you see her? Did she see you first? What happened?
It was like both of us. We decided that we probably are. She said later on that when she passed the first time, she saw me and thought it probably would be me, but hesitated. But in the meantime, I had other job because I actually had to look at two other ladies because, the two other ladies which were to go to Germany to actually it was daughter and granddaughter. They were going to father and grandfather living in Germany, and he wasn't really capable to travel. So
what is that connection? Did you know you were going to have to meet these other two ladies when you got there?
Purely incidental. It was like I was talking to someone of my friends about it, that I'm planning to go to the border and see for myself what's there. And she said, I have a friend in Germany. This friend has a Ukrainian friend in Germany, and this Ukrainian friend waits for his relatives actually to come over, and didn't know how to do it. Okay, it is simpler because there is no visa. It's basically transportation only. And I said, look, I'm going there. It was about the same time, so I could collect them. So I had three ladies in the car.
And was anyone else with you that came from Warsaw?
No. I was.
No, you by yourself, and then you knew you could. Okay.
But that was like, okay, for me it was some sort of adventure, perhaps, but it's really not an adventure. It's all in all, it's a sad story for me, for those people, and for everyone else at the station, actually. And but the mood was good, so volunteers, free food, free drinks, those SIM cards also free for anyone crossing the border.
That's an important detail, the SIM card for your phone.
And that actually, it's really not.
And having are there enough outlets to charge all the phones?
Well, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And the crowd of people.
How did you connect with the other two ladies?
Oh, they had their phone working, actually.
Oh, okay, so
not instantly, but I was phoning, there was no reply, but finally they came back. So I had their phone number.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, everyone, so with the hugging.
So what was the feeling in your, I don't know, I think I would feel it right here when they recognized you?
Yeah, it's like, because obviously, totally alien person, and somehow we felt like we need to hug. because
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, and you didn't know them at
like,
all, but you
like a
hugged.
foundation for them and for me actually, because otherwise, I would be just wasting my time. So
Yeah.
okay, instantly into the car and went back to Warsaw. Because actually, for those two ladies, I was to arrange a train from Warsaw to Berlin.
Okay.
Simple as that, obviously. So it wasn't a particularly difficult task.
Okay. And then tell us a
My
little,
country, obviously, she was supposed to live with us, and that's what was happening.
and what is her name?
Her name, Olena.
Olena. And
Olena.
how long did Olena stay with you?
Well, she left a week ago. No, even less than that. On 22nd. No, it's just
Oh,
Tuesday.
a few
Tuesday.
days ago. Okay.
So
And um, there was something you mentioned, I think, in one of your emails that she was helping with maybe some children, Ukrainian children in Warsaw, in your
uh,
town.
yeah, that's another matter because actually people really are trying to help. So basically, what some people simply buy some goods which needs to be either going to refugees already in Poland or going to Ukraine.
Hmm.
It's mainly for children. It's mainly medical things. There is a list of what is needed just to buy something silly, actually. So that's one thing. And in our little town, which is part of Warsaw, but we are in a way independent. So there is a city council, and city council place actually was for the Ukrainians really, because it was the place where people were bringing various goods to be transferred, and also there was an advice, etc., etc. So we went there with Olena. We went there virtually next day actually, because she was hoping to help, and that's what was happening actually. She was going there for 3 days, I think, helping to sort out. She was talking to newcomers as already settled in,
Yeah.
and then my wife had an idea that since many children were coming and some of them at school age, that's another story, because I think at the moment we have something like 800,000 children only in
Oh,
Poland, because there are many mothers with their children were coming to Poland. Their men stayed back in Ukraine because they had duty to perform over there. So
mhm,
it's this sort of community. So children need school or time, not only education, just place where they can spend some time.
mhm. Some structure.
Were open for them, and my wife phoned the local school asking if they had any Ukrainian children, because we have someone who actually is a professional uh,
Mhm,
teacher for young children, and that's what happened. So she went there. She was going there for a week actually, until those children sort of got used to their realities, or some of them
mhm.
actually left for perhaps other cities or maybe countries. So it lasted for a week. So she was busy. She was busy for at
And
least 10 days quite extensively.
oh my gosh, what a story that she could leave her country and the next day, couple days, be helping
Yeah,
with
yeah, it's amazing.
children from her country and using her
She
teaching.
traveled something like 3 days, nearly 3 days.
Yeah.
I thought
Oh,
she would be sleeping or something, and no, no, no. I want to help.
that's
But the funny thing was, it's about, we had a discussion with those three ladies in the car. It
yeah.
was about the war, because we had this about the war, etc., etc. But the main problem was the debate whether Russia has the right to use the date of Christianing, which was the 10th century, as the date of Christianing of Russia. Because you have to say that 10th century, there was a little principality around Kiev, so there was a sort of Ukrainian state at that,
Yeah.
and it was Christian at the end of 10th century in Kiev. And later on, there were various, history was complicated, but Russians decided that they claim the beginning of their Christianity because of this Christianing in Kiev.
Oh.
Although Russia, Moscow didn't exist at that time. Moscow was founded some 200 or 250 years later. Then there was this Christianing, and there were other monks who actually Christian Russians. But for Russians, it was important that they started in 10th century, because the
Ah,
beginning of the Russian world.
right. So the Russians are claiming the Kiev history as their own.
Yes, indeed.
when their city was
Now that
founded.
they feel that they are not entirely Europeans, I suppose. That was actually those
Ah,
ladies were telling me, because the Russians have no right, because this was our predecessor, that
yeah.
was Kiev, and that was our state. We didn't have later on. We were not lucky actually to have our own state for hundreds of years, but
Oh, yeah.
we had it 1,000 years ago, and Russia didn't have it.
Yeah, over here in the United States, we haven't been around as long. So to hear the history from 1,000 years ago is incredible. And I think that's interesting to point out, because I don't think the news outlets here talk about how close the Ukrainian and Polish cultures are, and how the borders kind of went back and forth in maybe like the late 18th, 19th century, kind of like France and
That's
Germany.
all history. There is no time to explain all that. But in
Oh,
reality,
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
in fact, what was happening, Poland was established some years ago as a state. And at that time, actually, it was competing with Germans in the West. And this competition was not particularly successful. So Poland gradually moving more to the east
Hmm.
from the West. But at the same time, it was competent enough actually to take over those territories. So, okay, we are not particularly proud about that, but effectively, we have colonized what is today's Ukraine or today's Belarus. And then obviously those territories were integrated into the Polish state, and that lasted until first 17th century, when actually part of Ukraine, the eastern part of Ukraine, decided that they have to go with Russia. It was their decision, actually, taken by quite a number of people. So Cossacks went to Russia, really. That was mid 17th century. The rest was in Poland until the end of 18th century. So the western part of Ukraine, nearly 40% was what is Ukraine today, was part of Poland until the end of 18th century. And then actually we shared our history, because there was neither Poland nor Ukraine as a state. We were either part of Russia or part of Austria. North was Russia, south was Austria, both Poles and Ukraine. So in a way, for 120 years, we shared similar fate in a way. Therefore, there were some ties. After the First World War, Poland was re-established as an independent country, and it was also multinational. So it included our eastern territories, which basically is Western Belarus and Western Ukraine, and it lasted until 1939. And after the war, again, the Ukraine became part of the Soviet Union, the whole Ukraine as it is today.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning of this whole story. And there are interesting turns in history, but the Soviets actually created a constitution which provided a clause that any republic within the Soviet Union, if it wants, could become independent. No one believed in that, obviously, with the Soviet Union days,
Yeah.
but the clause was there. So after perestroika, actually, all those countries like Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Georgia, and others, they decided to use this clause and sort of break away from Russia. So Russia is trying to reestablish some of it. But anyway, as a result of Ukraine, 31 year ago, became an independent state, finally, after so many turns of history.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and you also share your languages are similar, right?
Yeah, there are some similarities actually, because there is a group of Slavonic languages, and it's could be Czech, Polish, Slovakian, Russian, Belarusian, Ukrainian. So there are some similarities, but some are more close, other are less close, and it seems that Polish and Ukrainian is pretty close.
Yeah.
Less than Russian, I suppose. But again, the language was never a problem, actually, because people are coming from Ukraine and they're living here, and anyone is getting sort of familiar with how to actually express itself in other languages.
Hubert, I was wondering, what are some things people here in America could do to help the Ukrainian refugees? I know
Well,
there's things online, but I didn't know if you had anything specific to offer.
no, I think that America is doing quite a lot about it. I mean, first of
Okay.
all, there is an aid to the people actually which is at war. And actually, even today, President Biden is in Poland.
Right.
In Poland, actually, now he is somewhere close to Ukraine border because there is a place where there is the center of activity, so to say.
Yeah.
But tomorrow he will be in Warsaw, and I'm sure he will have to say something about it. And also, America is helping with the refugees because obviously, to keep all those people, actually, we need money, really, for them to keep.
Yeah.
Because there is a fast track actually for them to go to work if they want, without much hassle now. No visa requirements, nothing. If they want to work and there is a work for them, they can. But some of them
Oh,
they cannot have it. Actually, they have to be supported really. So
yeah, especially mothers with young children who
yeah,
need to be.
exactly, yes. Some of them it's not only one children but two or three, and it's
Yeah, right. Wow. Hubert, thank you so much for sharing the
well.
story and giving us your insight on the history. That really shapes it. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, well, the history is important because actually there is a context. It's because in Poland we were trying to understand why are we so helpful to
Yeah.
Ukrainians because there is really a movement,
Yeah.
and obviously, the past history must have some meaning to both to them and to us, and therefore we probably feel close. That's how it is.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
this history we should find it perhaps a bit boring, but and
Well, I
especially.
think everyone over here is in awe of all the compassion that the Polish people are showing and as well as many other European countries.
Yeah.
And just to hear one story, your story, um, of helping, exemplifies what many people are doing to help in the situation.
I'm sure there are 1,000 stories like that. Therefore, it's all happening.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Hubert. Thank you for speaking with us. And I just wanted to thank you for everything you're doing over there from all of AMT. We're really impressed. And I did do some research for what people say in the Ukraine, and I don't know how to say it in Ukrainian, but it's glory to the Ukraine.
Yeah,
And
they say it. Yeah,
and all our hearts go out to the men and women that are fighting in Ukraine and to all the refugees.
yeah. They say it's Slava Ukrainie. That's Ukrainian.
Ah, that
Slava
sounds,
Ukrainie.
I love it.
It's it's a soft language actually.
Ah, do you want to say it one more time and we'll close
Slava
out?
Ukrainie. Slava Ukrainie.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Hubert.
Thank you for this opportunity. Obviously,
Oh, you're so welcome.